What is up, studs, and welcome to Ask MandR episode 334, the first episode since we found out that there will literally be $1,000 LEGO Star Wars sets starting in 2025. If you haven't seen my rumor video on that, check it out because I did pull a few questions from that video for this Q&A, but usually I only take questions from the most recent Ask MandR, so if you have a question or a topic for next week's episode, leave in the comment section on this video, hit the like button while you're there. We'll start with y'all's comments that I took from the rumor video the other day though, and the Wraith says, I'm unsure why he thinks $1,000 for a set is expensive. And the answer is because it is. It is the most expensive LEGO set that they have ever released. How could I not sit here and think and say that it is expensive? Now, hopefully it's worth the money. Hopefully that $1,000 Death Star is very much worth $1,000. But it is still unquestionably expensive. He then says that $1,000 is pocket change to him, being me, and $1,000 is still $1,000. That's still a big old number. I do make more money than I did when I was 10 years old when they came out. This is like just in my head. The $500 UCS Falcon was kind of the barrier back in the day, and I could not afford that. But now, yeah, I can't afford the $1,000, and it's much. I do prefer that. I would not say $1,000 is pocket change though, but yeah, I can afford it, which is definitely a good blessing to have. And he then says that he'll be getting the set for free from LEGO before it's released to review. So why show concern? I actually hope you're right on that last one. I do hope that LEGO sends me this $1,000 Death Star for free before it's released to review. That would be awesome. But yeah, it's not expected. They don't send me free stuff, just so that you know. They have only ever sent me about $2,000 in free LEGO. So this would actually be about half of that value. So that would be pretty nice. A 50% bump to my free LEGO from LEGO lifetime earnings would be nice. But yeah, not expected. This comment just kind of befuddled me. I guess he doesn't really know what he's talking about, but I figured I'd refute a couple of his points. Next, Jacob says, could this be one of the best years for LEGO Star Wars? And as we were starting to get a more full picture of what 2025, especially the summer, is going to look like, we basically know everything for 2025 from January to June at this point. Of course, all the January sets are out. Reviews on the channel, check them out. But it definitely could be. I actually think, just from seeing some of the rumors popping up, that things are trending in a really good direction. I'm still very let down by the fact, or seemingly fact, that there's not going to be a huge celebration of Revenge of the Sith. That's what I had personally had my hopes up for like the last 4 years at this point, maybe even a little bit longer, especially missing out on some of the dioramas that everyone basically penciled in over the past couple of years as like, these are going to come out in 2025. And now it's like, well, yeah, Palpatine's Arrest is probably going to go up way more in value on the secondary market because LEGO's not going to release a new one. But there's still a lot of other amazing stuff coming in the UCS Jango Slave 1. You've got the MTT $1,000 Death Star, which could be a cool set. Like the $1,000 is going to be like the big talking point, but I would hope that this set ends up being one of the all-time greatest LEGO Star Wars sets. I mean, if you're going to make a $1,000 set, it better be, right? So I think there's a chance 2025 goes down as a really great all-time year, but there's still a lot of blanks that need to be filled out, and we'll see hopefully in the coming days, weeks, and months with new rumors that will pop up what might fill in those gaps. Next question from Eric says, does anyone know how often the packaging design changes? I would love to see some new packaging. And it used to basically be every year. Every year we'd get the new wave in January, or sometimes the packaging would change in the summer. It just kind of depended. But the packaging would change for the new like year of products once a year. And it was great because you would have this very clear denotation of what's from what year as a fan when you looked at the boxes. And now you don't have that. I also like what they're doing now. I think what they're doing now is pretty cool as well, and it definitely goes both ways. There's pros and cons to both. But as to when we'll see the current LEGO Star Wars, I just like calling it key art, change, it could be 5 more years. It could be 10 years. They could keep this for a long time. And I really thought the previous version they had introduced with the white strip on the top and the bottom would stay a lot longer. That one I think only stayed around for a few years, but this newer one I think has now been out longer, or it's about to have been out longer. And I don't see it going away. I also said I didn't really see the white one going away, I think, back in the day, but it obviously went away. And obviously at some point they will change it up, but I think there's no longer like any predictable cadence to when that will happen. It just might happen. I think, most likely 50th anniversary of Star Wars in 2027 would maybe see something fresh. And with the way that they're extending shelf lives on a lot of LEGO sets, and you're seeing sets in the past, they would only be out for 1 or 2 years. Now you're seeing sets 2, 3, 4, close to 5 years, I think, in some cases. And so having the box art not be all mismatched on the shelves looks a lot nicer too. So I think there's some real benefits there. But yeah, I wouldn't expect it to change anytime soon. Pizza Rule says, what is a set you think we didn't appreciate enough when it was first released? And someone actually replied to him with what might be the perfect answer. Sven says the 75222 Cloud City, the Master Builder series set. This was a set that everyone basically crapped on. Everyone didn't buy. I went to the, day one release at the Disney Springs LEGO store in Orlando, basically one of the busiest, if not the busiest LEGO stores in the entire world. And I was one of 3 people people that showed up to buy that set on release day. Nobody cared about that set. And look at it now. It's worth well over $1,000 new and sealed box for a set that was originally $350 just because nobody cared to buy it. And now all of a sudden everyone wants it. You know, I really don't think I could have come up with a better answer for that question myself. But if you think of anything, let me know in the comments. Next from Matthew, he says, do you think LEGO will ever remake the Twilight from the Clone Wars? And basically, no. I think that's basically a set that they would never revisit, retouch. Just it was another set that no one really cared about at the time. And unlike Cloud City, no one really still cares about it. Now, there is something interesting brewing that might change this answer because Rana the Hutt has been wholly irrelevant for all of 15 years at this point. And then all of a sudden the other day I see like popping up on Twitter or something that some guy was hired to play Rada the Hutt in the upcoming like Mandalorian season or the movie or something. And so apparently Rada the Hutt is going to reappear in some fashion in the Star Wars universe, which just, you know, this is one of the sets that had Rada. It puts it back on the table as a maybe, like a very low chance maybe from a no from me. I still don't think it'll happen, but with Rada the Hutt being potentially relevant again, if Rada the Hutt somehow involves the Twilight, obviously that would bring it very much back into the possibility of being made. But otherwise, I see no reason to revisit that as a build. Maybe it'd be a cool little advent calendar build. Maybe, you know, throw that idea out there. That'd be neat. Next question from SNL fan. He says, do you think the 2025 MTT will be bigger than the 2014 one? I think this because the set is rumored to be $150 and the 2014 model adjusted for inflation is about $120. I brought this up in my video too. The 2007 model adjusted for inflation is just over $150. So the model has to be closer in size to the 2007 model, right? Like it just seems like it has to be that way. Now, as I said, we're in a different time. LEGO is overpricing things like crazy. And I think this set will be a really good example of that because you've got a set that's going to be priced at what the one from 2007 costs, adjusted for inflation. But would it be sized at what the one from 2014 costs, but now $30 more? Like, I think that'll be a really interesting thing to see play out with this newer MTT, whether it's Clone Wars or Phantom Menace. It doesn't really matter. The price is going to be the price for the size. I think it should be a little bit bigger than 2014. I think there's no way that it's the same size as 2007, though. Just the way things have been shaking out with recent sets, they just downscale everything. But to that point, I think this technically won't be a downscale. I think it will be one of the few sets that we're seeing get bigger from its previous model. Obviously, if you're comparing it to 2007, it's got to be smaller. But if you're coming from 2014 or 2000, it is still an upscale. I'm hoping that I and everyone else ends up happy with this set. It's just one of those sets where it's like, you've waited for so long. Why make a compromised worse model? So hopefully it's something great. As a straight answer to your question, though, I do expect it to be bigger than 2014, but not 2007. Camcorder Studios 3 says, do you think LEGO will ever remake a Savage Opress minifig? I think there's always obviously a chance of something like that. You know, they can just always do anything. The reason I chose your question, though, is to point out something that LEGO Star Wars should be doing, and that's with the mech sets. The mech sets should have two figures. If you look at Marvel and Batman, I think Batman too, you know, they're getting two figures in their mech sets, and their mech sets cost $1 less than the LEGO Star Wars mechs. So why isn't LEGO Star Wars getting two figures since it's $1 more anyway? The Darth Maul one that's rumored to be coming out in June, I think is supposed to have a Clone Wars Darth Maul that would pair perfectly with the Clone Wars Savage Opress. You could have had them both in the same mech set. Like, that'd be a killer duo within the mech. It's the missed opportunities kill me in certain things like that when you can look across the pond at other themes and what they're doing and how that could apply to LEGO Star Wars. Like, man, you could have had Savage Opress here, you could have had this there and that there. Just, yeah, big missed opportunity for summer of 2025 already. I don't foresee it happening next year, but yeah, it could have happened in that mech if they were doing what other themes were doing. Alder KM says, hi Ryan, would you like to see the return of the Planet series from years ago? Personally, I think they're still great display sets and have the potential to be on-the-go play sets for kids and adults, with the planets being carrying cases. Personally, I would not really love to see these return. I think microfighters are the better option for the lower end of LEGO Star Wars sets. And when you ask this, I hadn't really ever connected the dots, but the Planet series were far less play sets than they were display sets. Like, those were totally basically little mini sets for adults, and I think that's why they didn't work back then, because the adult market just wasn't as big as it is now. Basically anything like that with a good figure, or at least a desirable character, whether it's a good figure or not, doesn't really matter at this point for LEGO. I don't know. I can live without it very happily. Cash Money Bricks, fantastic name, says, would you recommend shopping at Bricks and Minifigs, or is it complete stay away? I've been to plenty of them, and I think it's very, very hit or miss. It's very much a case-by-case, store-by-store basis, because basically all of them are owned by different people, and they all set their own prices on a lot of things. And because of that, at some of them you get better deals than others. Somewhat it depends on what inventory is just in that local area that gets brought into the store, on whether or not they'll have good things. Each store is very different in size. I've been to very large ones and very small ones, and some of the stores just have very little stuff in the store at all, and it's just frustrating like how little inventory some of the stores will have sometimes. It's just so hit or miss. It's very much like some are really good, some are not so good, and so I would not say it's a complete stay away. I think that would be quite sensationalized, but I think you gotta, if you have a local store, check it out and see if it fits what you were looking for. But yeah, there's like, I don't have like a local one. I don't go to one. But I will say there are some that if they were local to me that I've been to, I'd go all the time. And there are some that I would not go to. But that being said, my local store is Orlando Brick Co. And it's like one of the biggest third-party Lego stores that you can ever go to. If you ever do like a Disney trip, definitely make some time to go to Orlando Brick Co. And I'm somewhat spoiled by that being my basically day-to-day experience of a third-party Lego store, because they have such an amazing store there with so much product, like an unbelievable amount of stuff just on the shelves at all time, that anything less, it just almost never fills that void to me when I'm somewhere else. So I have someone have a bad point of view to really answer your question on, but I think it's very much a case-by-case basis with those stores. Keegan says, why did Lego do away with the bound instructions for large UCS sets? I love the added value with the UCS Falcon and Imperial Star Destroyer, and it honestly looks so much better. I don't know why they decided to dole down the instructions with these separate booklets. Now, I will say I think the separate booklet thing makes sense to me. I think some of them would be a little bit too heavy, or maybe I just need to go to the gym. But also, like, being able to separate the build with multiple people. Like, if you were building this with just anyone else, it's way easier to build with two people when you have two instruction manuals than not. Let's just put it that way. Obviously, you can get them digitally, but, you know, physically having them is definitely nice. And so I think splitting them up makes a lot of sense in a lot of cases. But there is something to be said about the decline of quality of Lego instruction manuals. With UCS sets in the past, they were just these beautifully bound instruction manuals. I mean, you can see them here. They look wonderful versus UCS sets now where, yeah, they're kind of nice. The Venator one is kind of nice, but they give like zero care to it. The Venator one, they clearly tried to make it so that the Venator lined up on the instruction manual, but whoever was doing it didn't do a very good job and literally messed up by an entire like 6 studs. And I just feel like you wouldn't have that back in the day, because you'd have this beautiful bound instruction manual that just used the beautiful box art. But now they don't even have beautiful box art for UCS sets. You get the all black book, like, yeah, the quality has been going down, the price has been going up. Those bound instruction manuals are totally a thing of the past, as beautiful as they are, but it's totally a cost thing. There's a little bit of validity to like having multiple people build at once with multiple instruction manuals, and that was actually very helpful for the Venator, because I had 4 people building my Venator at once when I got that set, and so like to get that done as fast as possible, that was actually very optimal. But, you know, for the vast majority of people buying the product, I think they'd rather have one nice, beautifully bound instruction manual with some beautiful art on it. Next up from Brandon says, do you foresee Lego doing a UCS Acclimator or maybe even UCS ARC 170 later down the line? I think the amount of wing sag you would see could be perfect for the ARC 170 since the wings are actually slightly angled downward. I think the ARC 170 is very much a high potential UCS set in the next 5 years. I do not think the same of the Acclimator. I don't think we'll ever see a UCS Acclimator. I think the Venator's just leaps and bounds more interesting and more well known. I think that's why we see a MIDI scale Acclimator, wherever it is behind me, it's down there, and not a MIDI scale Venator right now, because Lego chose to make that the UCS. Now, when it comes to the UCS ARC 170, I still kind of think that's a tough one, because the wings would need to be so wide that the sag might be too much, you know? And so I think that's an interesting problem that would need to be solved for a set like that. And I don't know how you solve it, you know, because I don't think even like the X-Wings wings are much thinner and less detailed and not as wide, not as far out from the body of the ship as the ARC 170 wings, and that's probably the only set that comes close to the ARC 170 as far as the shape of it. If they never do an ARC 170, I think the only reason they wouldn't is because they can't make the wings look very good. Otherwise, I think the ARC 170 is in. The Acclimator I would probably never expect to see. Next up from All for Fun says, for the 50th anniversary of LEGO Star Wars, do you think they'll make a set for each of the Star Wars films? And I love this idea. I've thought about it myself a little bit. I think you can do some normal sets in January and then May or whatever, but I think for like the summer September lineup, the August 1st wave, you get 9 sets, and yeah, episode 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9. I think you kind of have to skip Rogue One and Solo and like the original Clone Wars movie and the show, and like you kind of have to make some sacrifices there. But if they celebrated the original 9 Star Wars films like that, I think that would be a pretty fitting way to do it for that anniversary. Now, he also added on that he thinks they should do what they did with the gunship and have the fans vote for what they want. I will caution that I don't think that they would do that because I think they're scared of what happened the last time. But I do think it would be cool if like the fans got to vote for like 3 options for each movie and we got to decide and have some say on what came out for that anniversary. Like, you know, if you just gave for episode 2, if it was like Dex's Diner, Speeder Chase, or Django Slave 1. But yeah, that would be a really fun way to do it, where each movie gets 3 to vote for, and then people go wild with it. That could be a lot of fun, but I think Lego was scared of the fans having fun like that again, like it was with the gunship. Ryan says, I 100% agree that the price rise needs to stop. I haven't been buying Lego sets new because of how expensive they are, and I've been buying older used ones from the better days of Lego Star Wars. And I think this is something more people are going to become savvy to. The used Lego sets can be very reasonably priced in comparison to brand new sealed stuff. I think I also saw someone else comment that they won't even buy a brand new set like on the shelf. They will wait for it to show up at their local third-party store used, because they can be like ridiculously cheap used sometimes. So you can save a ton of money, and it'll be in like perfect condition anyway. You can save a ton of money doing it that way, not just wait. Yeah, it's better than 20% off. So I thought that was just some interesting strategy that I've seen from a couple of fans, just reading through the comments as people have been talking about this. So that is going to be it for this episode of Ask MandR. If you have a question or topic for next week's episode, leave it down in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, check out my 2025 Lego Star Wars set reviews on the end screen now. See ya.